My name is Mica Paris. I'm a singer, but I've done many other things, acting and radio, TV and everything else, presenting. So I do quite a lot of things, and author, all that sort of stuff. So I'm one of those crazy singers. You know, it's really interesting because unless you are discriminated against, you really don't get it. And a lot of the times, especially after this BLM last year and all of this, what's going on in terms of, first of all, suddenly the world is seeing that this is an issue. That's amazing in itself. So I can't believe it that we're actually looking at this from the world standpoint for the first time in my life. It's never been done. So racism is a thing, as I said, unless you are discriminated against, you will never understand it. And as a person of color, I can tell you it's not easy. But what I've done with it, I've seen it, I've experienced it many, many times. But I just keep pushing forward because you have to, because they're very ignorant people that think like that. And if you allow them to win, you finished. So the thing is, racism is a thing where it's always people that are in fear of something, it seems. They're fearful of something, and that's what we have to understand. That's why we have to educate to make them understand. Some people look at people of color like myself and think we're a threat. Some people look at us and think we're going to be violent. I can't tell you the amount of times I've gone into a shop just to buy something, even in St. John's Wood, for crying out loud. Lovely area, just there. And I've gone in the shop and I've gone to buy something, and three people in the shop have literally ran back to the back, and it's got nothing to do with COVID, all right? They'll just run to the back and watch me like I'm about to attack them, take the bag, or something like that. At least that's what it feels like. And that's like a silly little story to tell you what it's like. That's a tiny thing. Times that by whatever, in many different situations where you're in the airport and you're about to show your passport and you're the only one that's getting taken over to the side to check the bags. No one else. These are things that maybe you think are just trivial, but they're not. You walk into a room at times and people assume that you're going to do something that's really not good. And that's kind of in a nutshell what racism is the thought that your color dictates that you're going to be a problem. That's the only way to kind of describe it. It's happening because most of the time people look at people of color and assume that they're going to be either robbing them because they've been conditioned to believe that we are a problem. That's what racism is. It's the perception that race of people are a threat to you. That's what racism is. And that's ingrained a lot of the times. It can be generation to generation. It can be children. I mean, I'll give you an example. I remember when I was 9 years old, and I remember I was running to school in South London, and Roots was on TV. Roots was a very big TV show back then. I don't even remember. It was a series. And I was running down the street, 9 years old, and this little girl popped out of her house, and she said, "Kunta Kinte" to me. And I was really, really, I was hurt because Kunta Kinte was the main character in this slavery series that was on the TV, and the whole of the UK was watching it, right? But he was a guy. Can you imagine at 9 years old? I wasn't upset that she called me Kunta Kinte because of my color. That wasn't what I was thinking, because you don't think of race when you're 9. What I was upset about is that she thought I was a guy. It wasn't until later on I realized that her parents had probably told her that, people of color are a problem. So it's a generational thing a lot of the times. You'll find that racism exists even in families. You've got racism where people are lighter skinned and darker skinned, and the lighter skinned don't like the darker skin. This happens in Indian families as well as other families, black families as well. So there's lots of types of racism. There's there's institutional racism. There's racism within the families. There's a lot of racism going on. Believe me, you've got it with, you can even have it with countries like, sometimes you hear that the Irish don't like the English. You don't hear that the Scottish don't like the British. Racism is really a thing that is sort of ingrained in the human psyche. And to root it out really, we have to educate and understand that no one is a threat unless you perceive it as a threat. Seriously, not in terms of a color. You can find, this is what I told the guy at the airport. I said, I'm not being funny. You see, that little old man that's running along there, he could have a big stash of drugs in his bags, but you didn't even assume that. You see what I'm saying? So he's already assumed that I'm that person because of the color of my skin. And this is why we have to re-educate. We have to do it from institutional side, from the school side, from all institutions that we learn in. We have to start to educate from that place. Well, it's very important that when you tell me about these stories, when we hear about all of these stories, it's so important that we have a day, very much like all the days that we've created, like Martin Luther King Day. All of these days, they're so important because it highlights the importance of that actual movement. And this creates a thought. It then makes people conscious because that day, just like your birthday, my birthday, just like Christmas Day, it highlights that cause. And just like Black History Month, it highlights the issue of race, And as I said, it's Black, it's Chinese, it's Indian, it's anybody that is of color. We have to look after all of our brothers and sisters of color right now, all of us. Yeah, we have to continue to talk about each other in a way that is genderless, raceless. It's all of the boxes. We have to eliminate the boxes, okay? That's what we have to do. As I said, we're a human family, and we have to keep talking to each other as a human family. That's even going down to religion. You have people that don't speak to each other because they have a different religion, This is ridiculous. As I said, we have to start talking amongst each other and making sure that we're watching ourselves. Like you get some people who've known you for years, and sometimes they just blurt out something really racist. And you're like, hang on a minute, that's not cool. We have to start doing stuff like that. We have to police ourselves, police our friends, and pull them up when they do it. Because as I said, like that little girl when she spoke to me, it's learned and heard behavior. It's all about the intention of the song. Songs, just like food, believe it or not, they remind you of a time. You can't beat a song for a memory, let me tell you, whether that's meeting your girlfriend, boyfriend for the first time, graduating, whatever, having your first kid, there was always a song attached to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where music is so powerful. So when I make music, it's all about my intention. So my intention is always to heal through the music. It's so important. So even down to writing songs, I deal with the human condition when I write, because that's what soul is. Soul music is dealing with the human condition. And when I'm talking about my situation and my pain and my experience in a song, I guarantee you everyone that's listening to it can relate and say, oh, I remember I had that moment like that, or whatever. And it's all about bringing people through their sadness and uplifting them and inspiring them. That's what music does. And if we can find like a song that, like one of the songs on my on this album that just came out last year, Something Inside So Strong. I didn't even write that. That's Labi Sifri. But I chose that song because that says it all. That song, the lyrics, it speaks to everyone. And you have to sit down and go, have I been good? Have I really? That song, when I first sang it in the studio, I was in tears. Because I remember hearing that when I was a little girl thinking, oh, that's a nice song. But when you sing that song, it just, the higher you build your barriers, the higher I will climb. It's just powerful lyrics. That's the power of music. Music does that. Music just goes, it just supersedes everything. The minute a person hears a song that touches them, everything goes out the window.